We'd like to welcome you to BeMoreNews.com, the news before the news, where we uncover the truth. We're here on Tuesday, December 28th, 2010, in the offices of the Warrior Lawyer, J. Wyndal Gordon, Esquire. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Donnie. How are you today?
Good, good. The Shomrin case, you are representing the victim?
Yes, I represent the family of the victim, but actually the victim who was attacked by the Israeli soldier.
Of the Shomrin group up in Upper Park Heights?
Right.
Okay,
Shomrin
and you're representing the young African American Northwestern High School student.
Indeed, I am.
Okay, so what happened today?
Well, today a preliminary hearing was scheduled at the district court in Wabash, and the preliminary hearing was postponed because the state had indicated that they wanted to conduct further investigations, and the defense attorneys were on vacation. And but we had a good following up there. A lot of great people showed up in support of the young man. There were about, I guess, about 15 or 20 men in suit and ties standing in support of him. And one of the things we had some concern about was the fact that the state needs to conduct further investigation. I believe this incident occurred sometime in November, and you know, they had already brought charges against this young man, so we're trying to figure out what is the need for further investigation, unless they're trying to figure out the other two individuals who also participated in the attack. And I think that's very important to the case as well. So we're going to kind of stand back and, you know, watch this matter unfold in front of the court system, and then when it's close to completion or completed, we're going to come back with our civil action.
Anything you want to add?
Well, I want to add that the community is outraged by this conduct. It's a shame that a young man like the one who was attacked by the Shomrim organization cannot walk through the community of his grandmother without facing all types of verbal and physical assaults.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Are you proud of the turnout by the African American community?
I was very proud of the turnout because they were men. They were men. I think it was one woman, but they were men. In fact, when the court called Aliahu Wardensheim's name, all of us stood up at the same time, and everybody looked in amazement that all these men were there in support of the young man who was attacked.
I'm sure that the community is very proud of the representation that you are providing and that you will provide. Also in West Baltimore, you're working on another case that seemed to have hit Facebook like a wildfire on yesterday, Monday, the 27th.
Donnie, there's so much going on in this city right now. So much.
Well, let's get the backdrop for the case. The young man was.
I have a case dealing with a young man who's charged with attempted first-degree murder, and he was going for a bail review. I was contacted the day before the bail review by the victim, who got shot multiple times and still has bullets in his body. And the victim was very distraught when he found out that the particular young man that I represent was being charged for this offense, because he says he's 100% certain that my client wasn't involved. So I talked to him. I said, well, if you feel that way about it, I said, can you provide me something in writing, a sworn affidavit? He said, certainly. I said, can you also come to court with me? He said, I'd be more than happy to.
With bullets in them?
Bullets in them, without his pain medication, because he accidentally left his pain medication at home. We went down for this bail review. We sat for about 4 hours. This man was in pain. I advised the judge that he was downstairs because they don't allow them in for whatever reason. They don't allow the victims to participate in the bail reviews. And the judge told me that he could not come in and present his story, or at least be voir dire by the judge, to determine whether or not my client is deserving of a bail.
Now, of course, that's at the discretion of the judge.
That is at the discretion of the judge. However, I also had a sworn affidavit because I expected that the judge would try to put up some type of barrier to receiving this information. So I had him write out a sworn affidavit. I attempted to put that affidavit into evidence, and she indicated that she wasn't interested in that either. Now, that's a direct violation of the Maryland rules, because in a bail review, not only is the judge supposed to consider the nature of the crime, but she's also supposed to consider the nature of the evidence against the individual, among other factors. And some of the other factors are also include defense counsel's ability to provide the court with information that has to do with this case, the background of the defendant, his risk of flight, whether or not he's a risk to public safety and things of that nature. There are a multitude of factors that the judge is supposed to consider, and she's not supposed to stop one factor. Even though she can make a decision for one factor over another, she's supposed to consider it all. But she wasn't willing to consider any of those things that I had mentioned. My client's still being held with no bond. I tried to get him out today, same situation. I've also enlisted the state's attorney's office. They're looking into the case. One of the reasons why the judge told me that she wasn't interested in hearing from the victim was she stated that, you know, victims can decide to come into court in support of a defendant for a multitude of reasons, such as...
Do you typically see that?
No.
I've never heard of that in my life.
Especially someone with bullets in them? No. You typically...
So he's going to do that because he's intimidated.
Right.
I mean, he's all...
And not only that, this is a 34-year-old man, and these kids are like, my client's 19 years old. So, you know, I don't see any way at all why this gentleman would be intimidated. And he's indicated to me he's definitely not intimidated. And he was willing, ready, and able to give his assistance to the bail review.
I get the impression that he was like maybe a mentor, a big brother to this younger person in the neighborhood.
Exactly, exactly. And he was incredibly distraught. As I said again, so much so that he found my number. I didn't go looking for this man. He contacted me on a Sunday evening at that. So here we are. We got a man who's incarcerated. We have evidence, certain evidence, that shows that he is not guilty or responsible for the injuries to the victim in this case, and no one's listening. It's like the court has become anesthetized to, you know, the fact that they're dealing with human beings in real lives out here.
From a broader perspective, and you being an African-American man here in the state of Maryland, a 30% black state, is race part of the mix?
You know, you always ask these loaded questions. And the short answer is, personally, I feel that race has something to do with it.
Is it class?
And class may have something to do with it as well. All the isms that perhaps you can even think of probably have something to do with it. Everybody comes in, it seems, with some type of bias. But when you're looking at the same people every day, day in and day out,
there's a pattern.
You can't distinguish the good ones from the bad ones, so you tend to just lump them all together. And it's just the people, when you talk about race, the people who you tend to see in Baltimore City locked up or going in front of a judge for bail reviews are black people, African American males.
According to your followers on Facebook, there were many comments yesterday of people who I thought were grateful that a lawyer like you is out there and providing services to the community, because I would imagine a lot of the African-American males, a lot of the people in general at Central Booking don't have a lawyer.
A lot of them don't, and those that do, you know, they have a public defender, and this is no discredit to public defenders because they're great lawyers, but sometimes you need that individual attention. Like this young man, without the attention that I'm giving to his particular case, you know, he would be a mute person.
Jay Wyndal, according to the streets of Baltimore and other urban areas around the country, public defenders plea bargain.
Well, you know, you have some fighters out there, you know, and
generally speaking,
they do their job. You know, I don't have a negative thing to say about them, but they have more cases per day than perhaps any other private lawyer in private practice.
Therefore, the regular habit seems to just plea it out.
Well, a lot of times that does happen, and perhaps even more times than not.
And any New Year thoughts as 2011 is about to come in?
We got to get this bail system under control. And what I'm seeing today, you get bails out here for $250,000, $300,000. People are entitled to a bail, and they're entitled to a reasonable bail. When you give them $275,000 bails to people who are charged with misdemeanors and no prior offense with the system, that's a problem. And to me, that's a direct violation of not only the State Declaration of Rights, but also the Maryland rules. And these bails, I don't know why they're so high.
Seems like they're trying to get people for these new prisons they're bringing to town.
Well, that must be, I just don't have a clue why these bails are so high, because the thing about it is a bail is not supposed to be punitive. What we seem to think in the public that a bail is supposed to punish you. No, A bail is simply supposed to secure your appearance in trial. So the next time you have a court appearance, you're supposed to show up, or you forfeit the monies that were put out for your release. And another factor that they consider is public safety. But, you know, for misdemeanors, no records, you know, no bail. I was sitting in bail review all day, well, half the day yesterday and perhaps half the day today. There was no bail hardly under $100,000.
Well, see, now this is when when I think of the state's attorney, Patricia Jessamy, who lost in a campaign where Greg Bernstein painted her as a state's attorney who was not being tough on crime. But yet I'm hearing you paint a picture that's contrary to that.
Well, I always said that Patricia Jessamy was tough on crime. But the system, it's not the prosecutor's fault that, you know, I think their complaint was that they were losing cases. It's not Patricia Jessamy's fault that they're losing cases. That starts with the foot soldiers. That starts with the police. That starts with their initial contact with potential suspects and defendants. Starts with their investigation, whether or not they're following the law, whether or not they're following the Constitution, whether or not two people can get in the courtroom and tell the same story. What you find a lot of times with the police, mostly Baltimore City, if you have more than two of them on a case, you're almost bound to get two different stories as to what occurred. So they have credibility issues, they have community relations issues, they intimidate witnesses at times. For instance, in this particular case right here, where when I was dealing with the young man where the witness indicated that my client did not shoot him, the police contacted him today. They told them that they want to have an off-the-record conversation with him in some clandestine, location. Like, what's that all about? Why do you want to have an off-the-record conversation with a victim in a private location? And the victim had communicated to me that he was sort of intimidated by it. He said, I don't trust him. He said, I don't trust the police officer. He's up to something. So I said, find a public place where you can meet with him. And there's nothing off the record at all. So, in terms of it's off the record, put everything on the record. And, but it seems to me like that's going to be an arm twisting session. Because at the end of the day, with the victim saying what he's saying, it makes the police officer look bad, makes him look incredible. So he's probably getting railed by his friends and colleagues. Like, look, you said this guy committed this attempted murder, and the victim straight is telling you under no uncertain terms that this guy is not responsible for the murder. So what's up with the investigation?
And in the process, this young man has to fight for his life in central booking, which is no cakewalk.
No, central booking is the pits. Unless you like washing your underwear in the toilet and cooking oodles and noodles with the hot water out of the shower.
And a proclivity to violence, let alone.
Yeah, and little pests. No, it's no cakewalk. There's no way to spend Christmas, and there's definitely no way to spend the New Year.
How can people get in touch with you, J. Wyndal Gordon, the Warrior Lawyer?
They can catch me at www.gordonatlaw.com.
Keep watching BeMoreNews.com, the news before the news, where we uncover the truth.
Thank you, Donnie. Happy holidays to you.